here we go. All right, so on my end, I am still working on communities. I spent a lot of time trying to find a bug in my code, and in the end, it turns out it was an old issue in Hive itself. So I talked to you yesterday, Dan. Long story short, sub-comments are not being noted as being part of a community, so the community AD part is nil, even though it shouldn't. So I'm working on a fix for that.
So what is the impact? Is that, I mean,
It's
do
basic.
moderators still able to moderate comments and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
the impact is kind of negligible. I haven't, to be honest, I haven't tried any of the community features on top of it, and I know that when the APIs, they tend to, when you query a post, they tend to write everything under it as part of the community, so that's not too much of an issue, but it's an issue for like data integrity, because you have stuff that's marked as not being part of a community even though it should, and so I assume some people like me could get confused by it.
Okay.
And also, I'm not fully sure, but because I haven't checked, but yeah, I would assume that some functions may not work.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, the other thing we have to be sure of is such a change doesn't somehow break something too, right? Maybe something's expecting only posts to be marked this way, so it could be
But well,
something that breaks as a
the thing
result.
is, like, it's not comments based. So the way to be a bit more technical, the way we know if a post or comment is part of a community is currently by checking the parent param link, which is like the
Hmm.
first tag. And so it would be like Hive 11111, whatever. The issue is like for a post, the parent param link is correct. For a comment, the parent param link is also correct. Um, because the parent post would have the correct tag as well. But then if you have a depth2 comment,
Yeah, it's gonna look like it's.
yeah.
I understand.
So
I get the
basically, yeah.
problem.
So
Okay, so right now the first level comments are correctly
yeah, but the
saying the
second
part of the
level
okay.
are
So
not correctly
this
marked.
shouldn't. It seems likely that there should be no problem in marking the rest of them.
Yeah,
Great.
exactly. So
Okay, cool.
yeah, so I stumbled upon that. That was a fun time. Now I'm deep into the PGSQL stuff because I need to fix the huge process community post stuff. Apart from that, I had a chat with Crimson Clad, who, I mean, following up on what we said last month about the API docs, and basically, from my understandings, the API, let's say, definitions are going to drastically change in the future, with like half-enabled nodes and such. Um, so I have started to spend a bit of time just fixing the current docs, like just literally. I was thinking of doing an overhaul of the whole thing, but instead I'm just like basically going through each example, testing if it still works or if something broke.
Hmm. Okay.
Because she told me that it's a source of frustrations for devs that she's onboarding.
I mean, I'm surprised anything's broken. I would be. I. I mean, I'm not aware of any breakage in the API.
It's not as much as the API being broken as much as like examples being incorrectly written, or like something is pointing to
Okay, so
a
these are just
node.
always. You just mean examples that were always wrong or
Oh yeah,
still. Oh,
always wrong,
okay.
or got broken because like a bunch of it was pointing to like ANEX's node,
Oh,
and so
gotcha.
yeah, it's really like very minor stuff for us, but for
But
someone
yeah, it
who's
still
not
could
part of
confuse somebody. Yeah,
the
yeah, sure.
ecosystem, it's very bad. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that
kind of
sounds
what
good.
I've been up to.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so as far as what we've been working on lately, we're preparing to, we're basically getting ready to be able to deploy new versions of Hive and Half. This won't be a hard fork change, obviously, but it is substantial change in many ways. Um, and as part of that, one of the things I think I mentioned before is we're really trying to uh, ease the whole deployment of the whole system, especially since we expect everybody to be running half going forward and not running the old or account history or the old hive mind. Um, and to make that all as smooth as possible, we're also we're basically setting up Dockers that it'll use a Docker compose type command to launch everything. And you can obviously edit to not launch things you don't want to launch, but in general, for a full node, we expect them to run with all the Dockers that we've got specified. And so, as part of that, to make this whole deployment as easy as possible, I kind of feel that we have to go to ZFS So we're basically our recommended way to install to run a half a run an API node going forward is going to be to run the the API nodes, Dockers, and everything bound to ZFS attached storage. This will solve a lot of problems we have with providing backups of the databases, for instance, because we'll just be able to provide ZFS snapshots instead, and that's just so much quicker and has a lot of benefits in terms of ease of updating. Another advantage of all of this of standardizing on using ZFS is we can also give a standardized layout for how to set up the Postgres database for optimal half usage. For instance, one of the things we found is that a lot of people will probably want to run compressed storage for their database itself. But if they do, they don't want to compress the key tables like the wall where the write ahead storage is for Postgres, and probably even for the PG tables themselves, the sort of standard PG tables. So we'll have a standard basically layout where you could that says here's the uncompressed where the uncompressed data gets stored. Here's where everything else is stored in a compressed form. And similarly, we could have store your blockchain here in uncompressed storage because you're already compressing it at the Hive D level. So there's no point in trying to recompress it again. So I think just saying the standard requirement is use ZFS if you want to use our stuff. It doesn't prevent somebody from still using their own file storage system if they want to do it themselves, but the stuff that we provide to make it easy is going to assume that ZFS is the way to do it. So I definitely want to mention that. Beyond that, I think we're basically doing testing now in our own environment. We haven't quite got to production testing yet, but I expect we will in this coming week. And so I hope within the next 2 weeks to have a release out, assuming no issues are encountered along the way. Um, so that's kind of where we're as far as the schedule goes, what we're looking at. I can't promise in the 2 weeks for sure. There's certainly things could come up, but I feel relatively confident we can make it in 2 weeks. As far as what's going on beneath that, there's just a ton of stuff we're doing. I can't even encapsulate it really quickly in this call, so I'm not sure I even want to. Unless Bartek, I don't know if there's anything in particular you think we should mention that I haven't talked about, but otherwise, I'm probably just going to make a post with details about stuff we're doing.
Well, I don't know for sure. Release plans are our biggest plans and biggest efforts is we are mostly focused on that. For the other side, I can announce our new tool, Clive, which probably is made up at some quality level, able to be tried for some external people. And other interesting things we are processing, mm, but actually at some initial stages are some support for mm, other languages integrations being done by protobuf integrations and definitions of Hive operations written in this format. As far we have done research for that, we were able to generate very useful stubs for TypeScript, JavaScript, and Python, and this way, actually, we will be able to offer some standardized definitions for such environments, and in the future eliminate some logical copies of such operations from external libraries used right now, like Hive.js. And I don't know what in Python, probably
Similar
BIMP.
stuff, yeah.
Definitely, this step will be useful once we will would like to make some much standard virtual operations, what we plan in further years, and probably for other devs, it will be much more useful if some important comments will appear also while developing the code, because as far as we checked the IDE support for them is quite good, and you will be able just to create transactions by operating on classes and object programming. So it looks like very promising and really much better than current provided ways.
Okay, that sounds great. Actually, what you're talking about just made me think of something I mentioned before. I don't know if I'd ask you about. Have we yet assigned someone to create an example application? I think we were talking about one like to replace the old Wise application that would as an example of a half app that generated transactions. Did we ever?
Yes, and that's one of our plans. And actually, all such work was involved by needs of our new HB out component and their needs to operate somehow on transactions, operations, and signing them. And definitely, such stuff will simplify creation of such example applications, both for Python, like also JavaScript or TypeScript, and integrations into blockchain on such platforms shall be much simpler than currently.
Okay. So, okay, I guess my question was if we had assigned someone to start looking into doing that app. I know that they're going to need to use the stuff you're talking about, but I thought they might be able to just start some parts of it even without the actual. I just don't know if we have anybody free either, for that matter. Anyways, we can talk about that offline. Okay, so I guess that's like I said. I don't want to get into a lot of the details of what we're doing. I'll write more of it in post because we'd spend the whole time here talking about that if we did. So I guess we'll just open up and see if there's any other things for discussion or if anybody wants to talk about anything they're working on.
Yeah, I don't have anything else on my schedule for me.
Actually, I have a question to you related to the work you have mentioned. Can you check or just answer if are you sure that verifying these comments relation to the communities will not involve any performance penalties because from your description, I suppose that you need to traverse some hierarchies of pods to verify that they are related to some communities. So maybe I'm wrong. I didn't yet
Yeah, I guess the question
see.
is there explicit marker that says they're part of the community now, and or you need to add that, or are you just changing the code to walk up the tree?
Yes.
There will be performance impacts for sure because there is an extra join to be done there. The question is how much, and to that I don't have the answer.
Well, I guess the question is how are you doing it? Are you doing it by walking up the tree, or are you doing it by? Are they somehow marked to say this is part of this community?
Oh, there is a note that says so. So
So
there is
there's a field. There's a field for storing it.
Yeah, there
in
is.
the,
Oh, yeah, you don't have to walk up the tree every time. It's just
Okay.
on insert. I have to go at least. Well, I have to basically. I go up the tree one.
Okay, you do it during indexing. During
Yes.
indexing, you walk up the tree, but then after that, it's I don't see that as a big problem if you're just doing it during indexing.
Because
I mean, I could see for deep ones, I guess we might go up a few, but
Well,
we could have a 200 deep or something. But still, even then, that's probably not a big problem, especially if they're marking them, because you don't need to walk up the tree potentially, right?
no, I just go up one.
Each
up
one
one.
would have been already done, so you just
Yeah.
need to look up and see what the community of the parent one is, and you're done.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it should be quite efficient.
So yeah,
And that's assuming the comments are always in the proper order, and I think they have to be. So
yeah, it's a bit annoying, but I don't expect the performance hit to be this big. It's mostly tricky because the database is very fragmented to be efficient, and so I have to start from like a perm link and then join the perm link data and then join the posts and finally get the community ID. But yeah, I don't expect it to impact the performance too much. And I mean, it's only going to be during indexing, not during reading.
Right,
So
right.
that should be okay.
It's not such a big deal. Yeah. Okay, that sounds reasonable to me. Um, does anybody else have anything else they want to talk about today, or is it a quick day today?
Well, I guess I'd just mention, especially maybe for anyone listening, if you're developing any apps on Hive, if you'd like to review the post in the Hive devs community called Standalone Help Apps Request for Feedback, just to see what feedback we get from the community about whether they would enjoy having their app powered by these sort of proposed API nodes. That would be great.
So I have been thinking about that a little bit. Just so you're aware, I've been thinking about how we can do it in an efficient way. I think we can do it pretty efficiently through the publish subscribe. If one of the things I was thinking about we could potentially do is just have it write the most current blocks to a table. So basically have a table which just stores information about the current block. And then every database, sub database like the ones you're talking about, would basically just subscribe to that one table. They would just get the data about that one block pushed to them as soon as they get it, and then they could basically do whatever they want with that data. Bartek suggested another way to do it rather than pushing it through the publish subscribe would just be to provide an API for it. But I think there is one advantage to the publish subscribe method, which is the data gets pushed right away instead of being polled, so we get the data more quickly. Another issue that comes to mind though is if we do this, I still think it'd be nice if we could do it in such a way that basically something that looked like a traditional half app could operate off this data. And right now, that definitely would not work. So I want to see if there's some way we can think about modifying or what we could do to make something that looked like a half app, even though it doesn't have all the half app tables run in this kind of architecture. I think it's maybe possible. There's definitely going to be some limitations because obviously an app like this won't have all the prior data that a true full half app has. It's only going to have the current block data, as it comes in. It won't be able to go look into previous history, but still maybe for a lot of apps that half apps that might be enough. I think for a lot of them it could be. So, but it's going to require some more thinking. I think I need to think about it for a couple of days to see if we can reasonably make it so that we could basically take the skeleton architecture of a half app and run on this kind of database that doesn't have all the data. So I'll definitely add some more to it once I've had a chance to think about it more and look over the architecture that we've got for half app and see if it can be mapped to it. So that's about all I had thoughts on that right now.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. Sounds good. The sort of the proposal talks about the sort of so-called relay app, which I guess could. What we were thinking is that it could subscribe to a full node to get stream irreversible blocks
right
from a full node
exactly.
to that relay app, and then the relay app could sort of.
Well, I don't think you need a relay app in this. I mean, I don't see any need for a relay app per se. I think you can just have a database that directly subscribes to a half database. I don't see any need for a relay app at first glance. I think that's just writing code for that we already have functionality for. Unless you're thinking of doing something that I'm not.
Well, it would just be, I guess, an extremely small like JavaScript with a Postgres database.
Yeah, but I mean, if you can have a database directly get the data, it's going to be more efficient than anything we write that pulls the data.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's a good point. Yeah, I guess I was thinking a higher number of relay apps would be advantageous for a more robust network. So
yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. You want to have the idea that we could have like 100 apps, 100 databases that anybody individually runs that only has the data that need it by some subset of a full half database. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I think the idea is reasonable. And it's like I said, it's something I've been actually thinking about too. The issues that I see really are going to revolve around having an app that doesn't have as much data as a full half database. and making sure that we can still, we don't have to change a lot the sort of flow of control of the app because of that. Probably, I think we can make that work, but it needs some looking into. I mean, obviously, another solution is we just have these sub databases running something that aren't even half apps at all, and that obviously is pretty trivial to do. But it's not as, it would mean that those apps are more custom in the sense that they wouldn't be portable and things like that, which I don't think is really desirable. So
Yeah.
but anyways, it's the idea itself and how to do it. I think we can make something that works in some way so that we can make light databases that can serve up API calls. I don't think this is anything like we have an immediate need for, because I think the existing half nodes will easily be able to serve all the near-term traffic. But at the same time, yeah, we got to think long-term anyways, and it might be interesting for somebody who just wants to run a very small database.
Yeah, and if we want to build a bunch of apps, I hope we would like to do that. So
that's the plan.
not,
Yeah.
not very
The only
easy.
thing I want to do is make sure that it's the apps get written in such a way that they're have a common architecture.
Yes.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
everybody has to go relearn each one individually, and that just gets to be a nightmare, especially if they have a lot of apps.
That would defeat the whole purpose of. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Anybody else have anything to talk about today? If not, I guess we're probably done for the day.
Yeah, I think first one today. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. See you guys.
Thank you. See you.